In the last chapter, Hamlet learned the terrible truth about his father's death, and in the days that followed, his strange behavior began to alarm everyone at court. Polonius pressed a bundle of papers into Rinaldo's hand. "Take this money to Laertes," he said, "and while you're in Paris, ask around about him." Rinaldo frowned. "Ask what, my lord?" Polonius began pacing. "Who he's been with, how he's living, and if you must, hint at a few small faults. Drinking, gambling, quarreling, nothing too serious." "A little lie?" Polonius gave a thin smile. "A little lie reveals a great deal of truth." That was how he liked to work. Never directly, never foolishly. People said the most when they thought they were correcting you. Rinaldo bowed and left. Almost at once, Ophelia rushed in. One look at her face made Polonius stop. "What is it?" She was pale and shaken. "My lord, Hamlet came to me." Polonius stiffened. "In my room," she said. "His clothes were in disorder. No hat, his stockings loose. He looked pale, terrified almost." She swallowed. "He took me by the wrist, held me there, stared at my face for a long time, then sighed and left without a word." Polonius felt the answer forming at once. "What did you do with his letters?" "As you told me," Ophelia said softly. "I refused them. I kept away from him." Of course. Hamlet had changed these last days. Restless, distracted, strange. And now this. Mad for her. Polonius had meant to protect his daughter. Princes made promises too easily, but a young man denied what he wanted could turn desperate. "Come with me," he said. "The king must hear this." As they left, his thoughts were already racing ahead. Hamlet's strange behavior, Ophelia's refusal, the prince undone by love. Yes, that had to be it. By the time Polonius reached the king's chamber, two young men were being shown out, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Hamlet's old friends. So, the king and queen had begun their own search. Good, Polonius thought. Let them search, I already know. He bowed. "My lord, my lady." Claudius looked up. "You said you had something important." "I do," Polonius said. Before he could continue, the ambassadors from Norway were announced. So he stepped aside while they gave their report. Fortinbras would not attack Denmark after all. His uncle had stopped him. The army would march against Poland instead, asking only safe passage through Danish lands. Claudius looked relieved. One danger settled. Now for the real matter. When the ambassadors were gone, the king turned back to him. "Well," Polonius drew out Hamlet's letter. "This was written to my daughter." He read only enough to make its meaning clear, then folded it again. "When I saw where this was going, I ordered Ophelia to keep away from him. No letters, no visits." He paused. After that, he began to fall apart. Gertrude looked troubled. "I still think his father's death has more to do with it." The queen's guilt was speaking, Polonius thought. Claudius leaned forward. "How do we test your theory?" "Let Ophelia meet him where he often walks," said Polonius. "We stay hidden and watch." Claudius nodded. "We'll do it." Then movement at the doorway pulled every eye around. Hamlet had entered, carrying a book. Gertrude's face softened. Poor boy. Polonius studied him carefully. There it was again, that distance in him, as if part of his mind were always elsewhere now. "I'll speak to him," Polonius said. The king and queen withdrew. Polonius crossed the room. "My lord Hamlet." Hamlet looked up. "Polonius, or should I say, fishmonger." Polonius blinked. "No, my lord." "Pity," Hamlet said. "A man who pimps out his wares is at least honest about the stench." Polonius felt a sudden, sharp chill. Was he talking about Ophelia? No. Madness. It was just madness. There it was again. The mockery. The crooked answers. "Do you know who I am?" Polonius asked. "Oh, I know exactly who you are." That should have reassured him. Instead, it did the opposite. Hamlet's eyes were too sharp, too aware. This didn't feel like a man lost in madness. It felt like a man playing with it. Then Hamlet asked suddenly, "Do you have a daughter?" Polonius felt his certainty return. "Yes." "Keep her out of the sun." Again, back to Ophelia. "Yes," Polonius thought. "That means something." "What are you reading?" he asked. Hamlet glanced down. "Words, just words." Polonius stepped back, more unsettled than he wanted to admit. There was confusion in Hamlet, yes, but there was also intent. Still, Ophelia. It always came back to Ophelia. That had to mean he was right. When Rosencrantz and Guildenstern approached him, Hamlet smiled at first. Old friends, familiar voices, faces from a life that already felt far away. "My dear friends," he said, "what brings you here?" They answered too carefully. That was enough. "You were sent for," Hamlet said. They tried to soften it, but he kept looking at them until the truth gave way. "Yes," one admitted, "the king and queen sent for us." Hamlet looked away. Of course they had. Nothing in Elsinore came freely anymore. He was tired of being watched, tired of half-truths, careful words, and concern that felt more like inspection. "I don't know what's happened to me," he said quietly, "but nothing feels right anymore." The words came more easily after that. "The world feels empty. Even people—" He gave a faint, bitter smile. "Man delights me no longer." That much, at least, was true. Then they mentioned the players. A company of actors had arrived. Hamlet felt something stir immediately. The players? At last, something worth hearing. A trumpet sounded nearby. The actors were already being led in, and Hamlet turned toward them with sudden interest. He welcomed them eagerly and asked for a tragic speech. One of the players began. He spoke of Troy, of slaughter, of grief, and as he spoke, real tears rose in his eyes. Hamlet stared. For Hecuba, for a story. This man could summon real passion for imagined sorrow. And Hamlet thought, what had he done with his own grief? What had he done with his father's murder? Nothing. He had thought, delayed, spoken in riddles, burned inwardly, and done nothing. But the answer came back, as it always did. Because anger was not certainty. The ghost had spoken. The ghost had accused. But what if it had lied? What if the spirit had taken his father's shape only to drive him toward blood and damnation? That was the thing that held him back. Not fear of revenge, fear of being wrong. Then he looked again at the players, and suddenly the answer was there. Yes, he would make them perform a scene like the murder in the orchard. Claudius would watch it, and Hamlet would watch Claudius. Not the play, the king. One flinch, one break in the mask, one sign of guilt. That would be enough. At last, the confusion in Hamlet's mind began to sharpen into purpose. He did not have proof yet, but now he had a way to get it. The play would speak where he could not, and through it, he would catch the conscience of the king. But before the trap was set, the court was already laying its own.